Welcome to the place where we learn about and learn from the leaders in our field who are powering human creativity. I am Aaron Dworkin, and this is Arts Engines. Thanks again for joining me here on Arts Engines. Today's guest is Donna Collins, who serves as Executive Director of the Ohio Arts Council and serves as Chair of the Board of Directors for the National Assembly of State Arts Agencies. Donna, welcome to the show.
I am so excited to be here with you, Aaron. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. Well, I'm so excited to talk to you. And obviously, you have this amazing perspective, not only kind of seeing, if you will, the landscape of the arts in Ohio, but also just nationally and kind of the sense of what is happening with the arts on a national level. And that leads me to kind of my first question of just kind of as you look at the entirety of that landscape, either statewide, but also especially nationally, are there any overarching trends that you're seeing, either positive, like things are tending towards this way, or any kind of arising threats or risks that you see as something that, all of those in our audience who are doing their work in their communities should be aware of?
That is a great question. I will share with you that my colleagues who I know through NASA at the state arts agencies, there are just a limited number of us. So we feel very honored to hold these positions. But one thing that is constant is change, whether it's individually in a community or across a state or a region. And, after COVID, we certainly knew there would be change because the world changed. And so as I look at my colleagues across the nation, I see state arts agencies who are recrafting their guidelines. They're thinking more deeply about where their funding goes. Does the same formula work as it worked 30 years ago? Are there opportunities where we should be working more deeply with our rural constituents, our indigenous family, any of the places where we've done the work, but maybe we could do it in a more meaningful and intentional way? Now, some folks, to be fair, have been doing that for a long time, so we get to learn from them. As far as things I'm worried about, that isn't really what you said, but that's what I heard. I think that we all just have to be open, right? And go where the path follows us. Look at the trends, hear what the public is telling us about what they want from the arts. What do they want us as public funders, whether it's a state arts agency, a local arts agency, or the National Endowment for the Arts? What is it they want from us, and how can we be responsive to the needs?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, no, and it is such an extraordinary community of people. And I kind of wanted to switch gears a little bit to kind of some of these logistics of leadership. So in this will be a broad question, but I'm curious your thoughts. So obviously you're serving in this role, leading a state arts agency and overall leadership of all of those agencies nationally, but also you have led two statewide organizations at the same time, the Ohio Alliance for Arts Education and the Ohio Citizens for the Arts. And so my curiosity is for all of those out there in our audience who are either have to kind of tackle two actual different positions at one time, or feel sometimes that their one position is the equivalent of two positions, or they're in an administrative position, but they still do some performing or teaching, etc., and trying to balance all of this. So I'm just curious, kind of in terms of leadership, how do you approach that? How do you lead two organizations? How do you functionally administrate in that capacity?
Well, you don't let me down today. These are great questions. I will share with you when I did those two full-time jobs, the organizations were like sister agencies, right? So both were advocating, both were caring about what was happening with public funding for the arts and arts education. So many times the mission was hand in hand. So that made it a little easier. But nonetheless, there was the typical nonprofit responsibilities, two boards, two budgets, sometimes competing priorities, especially with public funding. You know, our role was really to advocate for the Ohio Arts Council's budget, and we did that well. We also then grew our advocacy base because members of the Ohio Alliance for Arts Education were often arts educators, teachers, principals, school administrators, parents who cared about arts ed. And our citizens group were the leaders of the nonprofit arts organizations. They were people who care about the arts. Maybe they were on the board of an arts organization. And sometimes they were college students. So you can imagine how invigorating that is to have the gamut of professions, everyday people, students who were trying to make a difference. For me, the balance came in when you began to think about what are the trends, what's happening, when you're trying to persuade the legislature to give more funding, more investment, or change a policy for arts education. So it was an ebb and flow. It was also trying to marry the missions whenever we could so that we were speaking with one voice. And oftentimes we could do that, even though the Alliance and the Citizens Group wasn't a state arts agency. We had the support of NASA. We had support of Americans for the Arts, even Arts Midwest, because those folks work together, have oftentimes have one message. So we're all speaking with that similar voice and tone so that our message is heard. And so that's what's great about the arts sector, is that we can all work together regardless of the name of your organization. And that makes it pretty wonderful. I also remember at the national level wanting to get involved. So I was the chair of the National Governance Committee at the Kennedy Center, at Americans for the Arts, chair of the Arts Ed Council and the Arts Action Network. And when you grow your base, you know, we always want to be surrounded by people who are much smarter than us. You're able to do more because the people around you hold you up, give you information, help you see the pitfalls. And so I think if your heart is in it and you don't mind working 6.5 days a week, you can make it happen. I'm most jealous, though, of the dual profession folks who are artists and arts administrators. Their creative outlet, their ability to change the world through poetry or dance or visual art or music, to go with that really hard administrative work.
Absolutely. And so I wanted to kind of just delve a little deeper into the advocacy work and just wondering, what is kind of your response, right, to that standard question or comment that people would say out in the field, outside of our field, to say, there's wars and there's inflation and there's all of these things and political strife. Why the arts, right? Why should we be investing in the arts? What's your response when people raise that type of question?
My response is it's not an either or proposition, because when we look at the quality of life in our communities, you can have a great healthcare system, you can have affordable housing, but if we don't have the arts and what the arts bring to us, right? Whether it's joy or coping with grief, if it's having other ill health, the arts are what help hold us together. It's humanity. And so it's not either or, it's both. And sometimes advocates have to cross their lines, right? So you have to work with the local healthcare system, bring arts into the hospital, into the Veterans Center, into the urgent care where kids are coming in when Children's Hospital is on overflow. And we know that when we we make the arts part of those things, solutions become more evident. People calm down, if you're hurting or you're agitated or you need help and it feels like no one's there to help you. All you need is a poet to sit beside you and hold your hand and talk to you sweetly from something they've written or they'll read to you. Maybe a child just needs to draw and dance around and jump around and have someone do that with them. And pretty soon we know that the arts have made an impact. That's probably not as a deep answer as you'd like, but I think it's really as simple as that.
Absolutely. No, and of
You
course, we've all seen so firsthand how the arts can impact. And I love how all of these organizations from the NEA on down are now doing this collaborative work with other agencies and really spreading the engagement through the arts, but through other agencies as well, which is tremendous work. So unfortunately, we are just about out of time, but I always like to ask of all of my guests, right? This work, and especially when you're dealing with a portfolio life and multiple positions and looking especially at the arts on this level, there's got to be tough days and days where it might even seem like some challenges, budgetary or otherwise, are insurmountable. As an administrative leader, are there any mechanisms you use or tools you use to get past those challenges, those obstacles?
I will tell you, I have a philosophy of 80-10-10. So 80% of my time and my team's time is spent on our core mission, doing the work we were hired to do. 10% of our time is on being with the field. So being out there with artists and arts administrators at community meetings with other funders. And 10% is on our own professional development. So we need to be on top of the trends. We need to hear the latest arts engines so that we know what's happening in other places in our arts world. And so I practice 80-10-10. My team does too. And it helps you find balance and peace. And as a NASA member, we have the opportunity to do a mindfulness exercise once or twice a week with Laura Smith. So that's important too. That's a perk of membership.
This is truly incredible. I love that mechanism, which I could see how it is very, very powerful. Donna Collins, you truly are one of the arts engines who is powering human creativity in our world. Thank you so much for everything you do, and thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, Aaron. You keep us excited. So thanks for what you do for all of us. Take care.